Hello and welcome to Historify. The topic for today's lecture is the Queen's Proclamation. If we go to the backdrop of this proclamation of 1858, we need to learn about the revolt of 1857, which also is referred to the First War of Indian Independence. There are various causes which led to this uprising of 1850. The important causes have been listed here in this slide as political, social, religious, economic, administrative and military causes. If we talk about the political causes, we must refer to the British increasingly using a variety of tactics to usurp control of the Indian princely states, and this happened through the subsidiary alliance as well as the doctrine of lapse, which was first perpetrated by Lord Dalhousie in the late 1840s. Now, this doctrine involved the British prohibiting a Hindu ruler in India without a natural heir from adopting a successor, and after the ruler died or abdicated, his empire or his kingdom was annexed to the British dominion in India. Adding to the woes further was the discontent of the Brahmins, many of whom had been dispossessed of their revenues or had lost lucrative positions. Then, social causes included the interferences made by the British government into the social structure of the Indian society, which included the introduction of Western methods of education, which obviously was a direct challenge to the orthodoxy amongst both the Hindus and the Muslims. Then the efforts made by the Governor Generals in India towards the emancipation of women, towards the spread of Christianity, all these were looked upon as interference into the social and religious affairs of the Indians. The next important cause of this rebellion was the economic causes. Obviously refer to the lack of equality as far as payment of wages, etc. to the Indian employees was concerned. Administrative causes fall under the category of the various political causes which accounted for government apathy towards the Indians. The military causes refer to the racial discrimination which the Indian sepoys had to face in the armies. Then they were not having the scope of promotions beyond the post of the Subedar, and their salary too was less than that of their of a European occupying the similar post. Then there comes the immediate cause for which led to the outbreak of this mutiny, and that was the introduction of the new Enfield rifle. To load it, the sepoys had to bite off the ends of the cartridges, and a rumor spread amongst the Indian contingents that these cartridges were laced with the fat of the cow and the pig. Both the Hindus and Muslims found it to be against their religions because the cow is treated as a holy animal amongst the Hindus, whereas the pig is prohibited in the religion of the Muslims. So the Barakpur division rose in a revolt, and Mangal Pandey along with his followers refused to use the grease cartridges, which led to the outbreak of the revolt of 1850. So these causes contributed to the great revolt of 1857. This slide deals with the pictures of the leaders of this uprising. We can see Bahadur Shah Zafar, the Mughal emperor of that time, the Rani of Jhansi, who was martyred during this war of Indian independence, Tatya Tope, and many other leaders who led the revolt of 1857 on various fronts in India. Soon, the suppression of the revolt led to the passing of the Act of 1858. Prior to this, on November 1, 1858, a grand darbar was held at Allahabad, where Lord Canning sent forth the royal proclamation which announced that the Queen had assumed the government of India. This proclamation declared the future policy of the British rule in India. The Queen's Proclamation of 1858 assured the Indians and the princes that their territories will not be annexed by the British government, and they shall be given the right to adoption. That means the doctrine of lapse was done away with. A darbar organized and held at Allahabad declared the assumption of the government of India by the Crown. Lord Canning also read out the Queen's proclamation, and the British government ordered its servants in India not to interfere in the religious affairs of the Indians. In framing and administering law in India, due regard was to be shown to the customs, ancient rites and usages of the Indians. The purpose of the Queen's proclamation was to announce that England was assuming control of its Indian colonies, removing them from the administration of the British East India Company. The Act laid down that henceforth India shall be governed by and in the name of the Queen or the Monarch of England. It abolished the Board of Control and the Court of Directors, and the post of a Secretary of State was also created. Lord Canning was appointed as the Viceroy of India, and the post of the Governor General now ceased to exist. The post of the Secretary of State, which was now created, was to be assisted by a Council of Indians, which was to consist of 15 members. The doctrine of lapse, as I have already told, was cancelled, and the British stopped the policy of annexation. A general amnesty was granted to the rebels except those who were directly involved in the rebellion. The proclamation of the Queen also paved the way for the Act of 1858, which liquidated the East India Company. Indian territories of Britain were to be governed in the name of the British monarch. The Court of Directors and the Board of Control was scrapped, and the powers of the company's Court of Directors were vested in the new Secretary of State for India. The Secretary of State was to be a British MP and a member of the Prime Minister's cabinet. He was to act as the channel of communication between the British government in Britain and the administration. The Act laid down that henceforth India shall be governed by and in the name of the British Crown, and the company's territories in India were to be vested in the Queen. The representative of the British government in India was the Governor General, now known as the Viceroy. The Viceroy and the governors of the various presidencies were appointed by the Crown. The Viceroy was to be assisted with an executive council, and the Act made India a direct British colony. So, we can easily conclude that the Government of India Act 1858, following the Queen's proclamation, definitely carved a new page in the history of India. It ushered in a new period in the history of India, bringing about the end of the company rule and starting a new era, which was going to be a turning point in the history of our country. So that will be all for today. In the next lectures, I shall be updating you with some other important topics. Thank you for now, and that will be all.